The entire world hates JD Vance, and I have a smile on my face because they just let him know very loudly with boos relentlessly raining down on him at the Olympics opening ceremony in Milan. And JD just had to sit there and take it, smile and wave and pretend that it wasn't getting to him. But we have reporting exposing that the boos are driving him so crazy he had to beg to try to make them stop. It is just such a bad look for JD Vance. This guy who talks about masculinity like he's not the most insecure person not named Donald Trump in this administration. And what makes it worse is that it's only going to keep happening because not just are the people in Milan speaking out, other countries visiting, calling out ICE, but Olympic athletes from Team USA are calling out and shutting down this administration. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss conversations like this. It's where I want to start because it's how we got to the boos. Oh my gosh. They're going to be so sweet to watch. But let's start with an Olympic skier on Team USA who had this to say.
I feel heartbroken about what's happened in the United States when, I'm pretty sure you're referencing ICE and some of the protests and things like that. I think that as a country, we need to focus on respecting everybody's rights and making sure that we're treating our citizens as well as anybody with love and respect. And I hope that when people look at athletes compete in the Olympics, they realize that that's the America that we're trying to represent.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S. So yeah, I just kind of want to do it for my friends and my family and the people that support me getting.
Is greater than. This administration is hated, and it is so great to see athletes using their platforms to call it out. There's literally nothing more patriotic than using your platform on Team USA to call for better out of our country. And that is the same thing that we are seeing on the world stage because somehow, some way, ICE is currently in Milan. They're there to, in Trump's words, help out, whatever that would even be. But Milan's own mayor shut that down. And a series of shutdowns led JD Vance before he was booed to beg and plead not to be. This is the reporting that has me knowing he's spiralling right now. It's what I want to check out before we get to that clip. Olympic Committee begs fans to be nice to JD Vance. In this reporting came out yesterday that there is talk of the US delegation potentially being jeered at the opening ceremony. The International Olympic Committee was forced to ask fans not to boo the US delegation led by Vice President JD Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio during Friday's opening ceremony for the Milano Cortina Winter Games. SINA, the Department of Homeland Security, sparked an international outcry last week when it confirmed that members of ISIS's Homeland Security Investigations Unit would help provide security for the Games. Italians have been shocked by images of ICE and Border Patrol agents pepper spraying protesters, breaking into people's homes, arresting children, and shooting and killing US citizens. Renee Nicole Good and Alex Prey, sparking protests, petitions, and demands from opposition lawmakers that Trump's thugs be denied entry into Italy. During a press conference Wednesday, IOC President Thierry Caventry was asked whether, given the geopolitical backdrop of the Games and local anger over the role of ICE, she thought it would be understandable if Americans would jeer during the opening ceremony. She said, "I hope that the opening ceremony is seen by everyone as an opportunity to be respectful of each other," she said before describing visiting the Olympic Village and seeing athletes interacting from all walks of life. No one is asking what country they come from or what religion. They all are just hanging out. She said it was a real opportunity to put into perspective how we could all be. And so for me, I hope that the opening ceremony will do that and will be a reminder for everyone how we could be. ICE, incidentally, has done just the opposite with its indiscriminate sweeps in American cities, where agents are stopping people based on their perceived ethnicity, language, and job description. Vance and Rubio arrived Thursday in Milan, a city that, despite the US government's best attempts to quell the furor, remains opposed to the agents' presence. Obviously, ICE does not conduct immigration enforcement operations in foreign countries, the Department of Homeland Security said. Donald Trump's ambassador to Italy, billionaire and Republican Tillman Fertitta, has further emphasized that HSI agents are ISIS's investigative branch. Yeah, I don't really think anyone cares what description that you give them. Nobody wants ICE around, and nobody wants JD Vance around. They don't want Marco Rubio around, and they're going to make that very clear. But the fact that the Olympic Committee had to say, guys, please don't boo. Please don't boo. JD Vance shows he's just an insecure widow man. Oh no, I'm going to get booed. Everybody on the world stage hates me. I got a fat face and my wife doesn't like me. Only Erica Kirk. Yeah, of course. Of course people were going to be hating on JD Vance. And boy, was it delicious to watch. Let's take a look at all the boos raining down on the poor little vice president who had to ask so politely, don't be mean to me. As we can see in this clip, JD Vance booed at the Olympics.
In an individual sport, what an honor for her.
There is the Vice President JD Vance and his wife Usha. Ooh, those are not, those are a lot of boos for him. Whistling, jeering, some applause.
Oh, it's just so delicious. It's a wonderful thing to watch. And I'm glad that that article that we read, kind of describing how the Olympic Committee pleaded for anything but that. And of course, it was going to happen. Who wasn't going to boo? I'm glad that they pointed out it's ridiculous to say, well, we should be respectful of people no matter where they're from. Yes, that's why we're booing JD Vance. JD Vance has stood up for the murderous thugs who killed, executed in the street, Renee Good and Alex Freddy. He has stood up for them more than he has his own wife and children for the hate that they get from his own party, from the right wing, for where they're from and what religion they practice. At a Turning Point USA event, JD Vance openly said he is upset that his wife does not hold the same religious beliefs that he does, and he's trying to change her. JD Vance has humiliated his own family because of where they're from, because of their background. So, of course, we shouldn't show respect for the vice president got to show respect. Can't boo. It's not an act of war, it's an act of protest. And that is what America is about. And that is how countries should see us, as standing up for the basic civil liberties that all people should have enshrined in documents protecting them. That governments are set up not to give those rights because they're inalienable, but to protect those rights. And that is the opposite of what this government has done. So it is our not just our right, but it is our calling to protest them when they don't. When America stops representing freedom on the world stage, we've really and we have, and that's the current state of things. But what does look like the American freedom that we want the world to perceive that we have, and actually more important than just being perceived, we need to have is members of Team USA calling out the vice president and still being on Team USA. You should be able to be critical of the administration and still participate in the Olympic Games. And I'm hoping we don't see any funny business, and I hope funny business authoritarian crackdowns. Let's call it what it is. That's what it would be. And I hope that members of Team USA do not feel scared to speak out, because some of the most important moments in our country's recent history when it comes to the fight for civil rights have been led by Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, right? Olympians who have stood down racism and shown what America can be on the world stage. Sports and politics are inextricably tied. Everyone wants to separate everything. And the right wing, when some boxer is, giving Donald Trump a big hug, or when Nick Bosa on, unfortunately, my San Francisco 49ers is wearing a MAGA hat, then the Republicans love it, right? Right. But when it's Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, it says, don't put your politics in my sports. When it's Donald Trump at UFC, they're going crazy because they're goobers and cultist. Politics and sport are linked. Let's make that very clear, especially during Black History Month. And we talked about this last night. Someone said this to me once. The way that Jackie Robinson was taught to us in school, a history that has been erased, of course, by this administration. His story was taught as being the first black baseball player, first black pro in the MLB. Like he achieved that. Like he was the first one who was able to. You see what kind of undergirds that? He was the first one to achieve it. Oh, no. There were a whole host. Jackie Robinson wasn't the first black baseball player who could compete against the whites. Let's be real about that. Jackie Robinson came in and had started winning MVPs. I'm sure that the majority of players in the black-only baseball leagues would have been just fine in the MLB, right? I think we know that much for sure. But that's how it was taught to us that he was the first one able to achieve. No. He was being held down, held back. I think that's how we have to view so much of this history, and that's why sport is so important in telling the story. I know we've divulged, we've left the path a little bit from the Vance conversation, that guy. But it's important to talk about these things in context, especially in this month, but all months. A day should be a day that we reflect upon black history, because that is the history of the United States. And the only way we can understand this fascist takeover and how to fight it back is to look at black leaders throughout America's history. I wholeheartedly believe that we should look to those leaders. We should look to those champions. We should also look to people unafraid to stand up right now. One of those people, Ramadan, what he had to say about ISIS attacks on America, which I think is the issue of this time, right now, and certainly in this administration. I think we're just so spot on and perfect.
As the federal government attacks our neighbors, those who worship in just the next pew over, they command us not to believe what we see. They compel us, as George Orwell wrote nearly 80 years ago, to reject the evidence of our eyes and our ears. And they would succeed were it not for the many among us who have not only read the Scripture, but who live the Scripture, those who refuse to abandon the stranger. I speak of Renee Good, whose final words to the man who murdered her moments later were, "I'm not mad at you." I speak of Alex Preddy, who died as he lived, caring for the stranger. Here was a man who held the hand of the afraid and the afflicted in their final moments. Here was a man who dedicated his life to healing those he had never met. ICE shot him 10 times because he did something they could never fathom doing themselves. He extended his arm towards a stranger, not to push her down, but to help her up. I speak of the tens of thousands across our city and our nation who took to snowbound streets in the dead of winter, refusing to allow those with the most power to impose their will upon those with the least. If that is not love for the stranger among us, what is? In a moment such as this, I look to the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches us that the highest calling is to become someone who sees the true equality of all living beings and responds to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were their.
That is what real leadership looks like. I don't know about you all, but sometimes I pretend that Zeron is president. I just like, in the same way, you know, when like Gavin Newsom is on the world stage and we seem to have a little bit of competent leadership, I'm like, that guy's president. Only imagine universal childcare made it happen right away in New York. Only if we had a Democratic Party that moved like that nationwide would maybe things look a little different. But for now, we'll just enjoy the JD Vance booze. And we're going to keep covering it all on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.